I think, there's so many different people that have different types of relationships, and there's never any judgment about how people want to live their relationship. I think we choose to have a really deep and really a growth type of relationship, and that requires a lot of emptying the cup, because we've been self-development junkies for a long time, and it's like no matter what person, place, thing, experience, book, conference, what have you, it's like to have that beginner's mind of emptying the cup and filling that back up, learning from her, learning from each other.
So empty cup, you mean like ready to learn, ready to absorb?
Yeah, because like if I have a full cup, right, then I can't put anything in there anymore, right? Like, so I have to empty the cup so I can get it refilled, right? Because if your cup is completely full, then you're never going to learn anything anymore. You think you know it all, then you're just going to continue to just be like this. You're never continually evolving and all that. And I believe that life to me is not necessarily linear. It's very just like it's constantly in a circle over and over and over, and that you're learning sort of the same lessons in tests, if you will. And when you pass those, you're sort of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the wisdom and more depth into the conversation. Like the more depth, like I feel like every time we go through something, or we go through a ceremony, or we change individually or collectively, that like Rachel just becomes this literally a whole new person. I'm like, gosh, whoa. It's like another layer of beauty, and then another layer of beauty, and then another layer of beauty. And so whether it's the person or the experience or life, I think things just get I'm all about just creating you can absolutely create a heaven on earth, and it's the mind, right? Like if I create a story in my head, because this is the number one human impediment, right? People create a story in their head about a person, place, or thing. They're judging, right? It's the human impediment. They fuse to that story. Emotions arise from that story. And then the next thing you know, you've created your own suffering, right? So I create a hell experience by getting into guilt and shame and anger and all these things. Or I can just get back in the present moment where none of that exists, reset, breathe, etc., right? And then think about some renewing emotions, right? Get into a peaceful state, all those things. And so sort of back to the relationship, I think you can always create whatever reality you want. And I think when you're navigating growth individually and collectively, I think it's important to, like Rachel was saying, let me kind of back up a little bit. I think just overall, everybody can have whatever relationship they want, but we choose to have that higher love, this higher conscious growth type of love, which requires a lot. But if you choose to do that, and choose to hold space with each other, and choose to have hard conversations, and choose to be committed to growth, and to seek to understand each other, and to just become love while you're going through all these things, or certain principles we go through, then the other end of that is like a heaven on earth experience. It's this deeper love and deeper connection that I never thought I could experience. And it's like, it sounds maybe cheesy to say, but it's so true. Like it seems like another planet or another reality when you actually decide to do the work together. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of that, it's like, wow, we are so much more deeply connected. And then it just becomes this fun, playful, beautiful experience. Mm-hmm. And people don't need to always do that and go deep all the time. But if you choose to, it can be rough at times, but it's just so, to me and to us, it's like the greatest gift. It becomes like a Christmas every day.
Yeah, you're unlocking new levels, to use your
100%.
Video game analogy.
Yes,
and then but separately and then together.
Yeah.
And it's reacting from the place of that story. Mm-hmm. I saw something on social media. It was this video of two people coming to an argument in the relationship, right? It was a man and a woman coming together, and then it would flash from them being adults to being little kids yelling at each other.
I love it.
And it was so good because I'm paraphrasing, but the message of it was if sometimes one kid and one adult come to the conversation, that can be okay, right? In best case, obviously two adults healing, but whatever. And then vice versa, if one is the adult and the other one's the child. But when two children come together to that fight, there's so how do you, right? Yeah. How do you not get to that point? And of course, we're all human. We all fuck up, do-overs, love them, this life, great. But that, I loved that video because as they were kind of morphing powerful. And you're oh yeah. And then I had a recent situation where I was that just clicked for me, where I was oh yeah, it wasn't me, present moment me coming to the conversation. It was little me,
little you,
who was feeling something like, so what happens when little Rachel and little Emilio come to the table? Do they often? And then like, what are maybe some of the principles like you mentioned where you kind of navigate that shit because it's every day and you have to be really present for it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I'm about to write a book about that.
Yeah. We're working on a book right now. And yeah, well, first of all, I think, people listening, I love that video. I can't wait to see it. But that principle, we talk about often. I was just actually doing a huge workshop, like speech with like hundreds of men who were all construction workers, big macho men. And a lot of these principles they hadn't heard before. And we were talking about, anytime, if there is something you went through, we call it trauma, but it's basically anytime you didn't feel safe, seen, heard, or loved throughout your life, most of the time when you were young as a kid, if you haven't processed that trauma or just hard, challenging thing you went through, a lot of times a part of you gets stuck there. So say, and it could be like the littlest thing of like, I really wanted to be on the dance team when I was 10 years old and they didn't pick me. And
so now I'm not going to get picked by him.
I'm not going to get picked. So I have this story now because that was so hard for me. And I created that story of like, I'm not good enough. I don't get picked. So then that I fuse to that story. I create all these emotions from that story. And that now becomes my reality. It's how I see the world. It's what I project into the world. And so we don't realize that oftentimes, like you said, we're not talking to an adult. We're talking to a child, that child version of them that part of them is still stuck at that age in that particular part of life. And I've seen our little us come up in the craziest of times. And also I think what's also beautiful is like that's that the child that if you've ever been with an adult and they're like throwing a tantrum or you see yourself throwing a tantrum, that's pretty much what's happening. It's like and in the moment you're like, what is happening? And you're just filled with rage and anger and all this stuff, and you almost feel like you can't control it because all your defenses and your protective mechanisms are showing up. And at the same time, if there is a lot of healing from past experiences, you can also I see our little kids just playing together all the time. Ultimately, that's what a lot of our relationship feels like, is because we have done so much work on healing past traumas and rewriting narratives. And in that space, I also think that's what allows the most freedom and playfulness to happen, where you just feel like you're just like two little kids that are playing, and it feels so safe and free and it's my favorite. Like I love it so much. So, but I want to get back to your story. I just wanted to kind of talk about that, where you can get stuck at that age, and that's that part of you. Yeah. And maybe because I talked for, do you want to go into like the principles where
we kind of work with? Bounce back with that. Yeah. So a lot of our clients, a lot of times will tell us like they don't know how to communicate, right? Like if they're stuck in a kid, they got triggered or something like that, for instance, and all of a sudden there's either the kid on kid or the adult kid, whatever the situation is. I think when we think about like the new higher love or divine love, like we want to talk about like the rules of engagement.
That when you say higher love, you said it twice. It makes me want to bring me a higher love. I love that's like one of my favorite songs to get me in that high vibe state. So
that was like one of our wedding songs.
Of course.
I'm like Pavlov's dog when you said that. I'm like, that's the song that makes me just like.
I'll say it one more time. Don't worry. It'll be three.
But I'm hearing what you're saying, loving it, and that just made me want to have a moment with you guys.
I love that. No, more of that. So with the higher love, and it's just like, we often talk about like what are the rules of engagement, right? With a higher love that's conscious, and that if you choose to kind of have this type of relationship, it's like first and foremost understanding that like both are understanding that like, hey, we're both committed to growth, right? Like me individually, her individually, because it's always the man in the mirror and the woman in the mirror. Like it takes two to tango. Like, and so we both know that like she has work to do, I have work to do, and so the next thing is, okay, so the first rule of engagement is that we're both committed to growth, right? Second thing is the understanding that triggers are gifts, right? And so that when she gets triggered, she understands that there's something inside of her that hasn't been healed yet. I understand that if I get triggered by something she says or something that happened or whatever, that there's something within me that hasn't been healed yet. So, and a lot of people don't just understand that and realize that, and how is that the situation, right? There's a whole workshop on that. It's a long conversation to like explain that out. But, and we can if we want to right now, if we want to, but but we both then understand that, okay, we understand that triggers are gifts. And if that happens, then it's something within us, right? Mm-hmm. So if she gets triggered or something happens, we're about to be kid on kid or adult kid, whatever the situation that you described, if Rachel's being triggered and stuff, I know there's something going on and that it's not about me. It's with her. I could have done something with her, but there's still, she knows that something's going on. I will then do my best to, then this is the third thing, create a space where she feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. At that point, nothing else matters because there's fire happening. There's an argument about to happen. There's a trigger that's here. And so I know there's a trigger here. My job is to create a safe space where she feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. Same thing with me. If I'm getting triggered or if I'm in my ego and defensiveness and there's something happening within me, Rachel will do the same thing for me. So then that's like a big thing, right? And so, but then these are kind of principles, but of course, then you got to learn like, well, how do you create a safe space? A lot of people don't know how to create a safe space. And, one piece of it would be being vulnerable, right? Like if Rachel shares something in a trigger state, I would say something like, babe, it seems like you're going through a lot. That must have been very hard for you to share, whatever it may be. I'm like, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for whatever it may be. I'm like, thank you for sharing. I want to acknowledge that she took that time, and not just like it's a statement. Like I really want to seek to understand what she's going through because she's a human. She's my wife. I love her. Why wouldn't I want her to feel safe, seen, heard, and loved? Obviously, when we're an ego, we just want to like, oh, you're right. But like we do our best to rep the muscles of like, my love is hurting right now. Why wouldn't I want to like do my best to be a divine masculine and just say, whatever, doesn't matter. Like, just let me see her. Because I know if I do that, she's going to be like, walls down, defenses down, arms, everything out. And then it's like, oh my God. And so it's like, oh, we don't have to like attack. It's like, even though I want to do something, I know that if I do that, she'll be like, oh yeah, oh my gosh. And then it's a beautiful connection. We can really have a better conversation and vice versa. Right. So I think like what's important is because there's always going to be that. There's life and stressors and kids and work and all this stuff. And so no matter how much we evolve or get better as humans and spirits and all this stuff, it's like, there's always going to be something. So I think like the book that we're writing,
levels.
And you master this level and then you go to the next level and then there's stuff there. And so I think it's really important that like people just understand like, okay, well, what are the rules of engagement that we can agree upon, and can we
agreement for growth.
So the agreement for growth, understanding that triggers are
gifts,
and we can just make it simple because there's like 4, 5, 6. You can keep going down, but
the
third one, so the third one would be just create a safe space.
Yes.
Where that other person feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. The bonus I would just add to kind of wrap it up in a nice little present is basically so we have this game of like whoever owns their shit basically wins. So you're sort of tricking the ego. So like if we all know what we've done.
So
and
you
like
made it
what
like a fun game. Yeah. Are there points?
So we just gave
Are there prizes?
There should be.
We kind of do it like in a fun way, but yeah, it's like basically whoever owns their shit first wins.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about this game is it does trick your ego because your ego wants to win. Your ego wants to be right. So in that moment where you're like, because sometimes if one person is just triggered, it's one thing. The other person can hold space. But if usually what happens is that person's triggered and then they attack. And then the other person gets triggered. And it's like, and then you could be like attacking, fire on fire, just escalating. And like the littlest stupid thing blows up into the hugest fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's realizing that every trigger is an opportunity for a complete blowout or way deeper connection than you've had before. Mm-hmm. It's always either one. And you get to choose each time. Do I want blowout or do I want deeper connection? Mm-hmm. And so this game of who can own their shit first tricks the ego so that you're like, if I can be the first one, like I win the game.
So you win by being like, oh, sorry, I was triggered because I'm a child.
I'll just be real with like yesterday, right? Like we had a little thing yesterday going on, and early this morning while we were having breakfast out, looking at the lake, just relaxing, being together, she was still in a beautiful way holding on to something because she chose not to bring it up last night because I was like in ego last night. I was in my kid self last night, right? And not all the time, but there were some moments where I was. and I was saying some things to her that hurt her a little bit. And she shared that during, and we talked about it, and we did what we just shared. But there was still some residue, right? So Rachel this morning kind of released that residue and was like, hey, by the way, I was feeling hurt with this. I felt like when you were saying this, that you didn't, it felt like you didn't, and what we do too is like the story I have in my head.
Yeah, the story I'm telling myself
is
like,
like, you
so
know,
it's not like you did it.
Is that like you didn't, the story I have in my head is that you didn't like care what I was saying, or that you didn't acknowledge that I was hurt, and you were saying things like that you always cook and all this kind of stuff, and just some attacks, let's just call them, that I was attacking Rachel on, right? Because I was in defense and I was in ego at a certain point. And Rachel said that, and I listened to her, and of course I said, thank you so much for sharing. And I was honest about that because she was going through something. And I honestly really am glad that she shares, because a lot of humans can hold things down, keep them for a long time, and they have resentment, and then all of a sudden they wait, and then a year, 2 years later, they blow up on some big thing, and it's like, because it was this thing that they never got under the rug. They never got it out of the rug. It's like, get it all out.
And that's poison. Like that shit is.
Say you either blow up, or like you get really sick and you get a disease.
Or that you're holding on to it.
So it's gonna
come out somewhere.
Yeah.
It will.
But like, I think initially when you practice these things, they can be hard, right? It's hard to like go against ego. It's very hard. But just like anything else, we do see it as a muscle. So the more that you rep it, and we've repped it, and we do our best to practice what we preach, right? Is to rep. So that muscle has become big. And not to say that we're perfect, but it's just, you rep it a lot, things can get actually easier. It really can. So when she shared that, I'm like, all I want is to love and have a beautiful day. And like, I want her to feel seen, safe, heard, and loved. You are my love. Like, I chose you. Like, you're everything to me. So if you're feeling this type of way, like, I want to do everything that I can to make her get back to like alignment. And so because of those reps, I'm just like, you're right, babe. Like, I was totally attacking you. I totally said that. That was not true. I was hurt, and I was feeling like I was just shameful at that time. And I definitely did that. You know? And she's like, wow, you know, like, and it's just, and it's not an ego thing. It's just like, say what you did. You know that, like, yeah, I was being passive aggressive back then.
Yeah.
I was being passive aggressive. Yeah. And you know, I don't know why I was, or maybe you do know why. And you can say, hey, how can I support you right now? Or, I don't know, I got to go be by myself for a moment, or whatever the communication is. But I think we do have that game. We practice it as much as we can. And it's done wonders. And it was what Rachel said.
So you won today.
Yeah. Woo!
I won yesterday.
And you won yesterday. Yeah. We won. And
we both did.
And
this is what we
we both
about,
win
because
in that
we
sense.
both
We both win.
sense, because really, if
the relationship rises.
the relationship rises, and everything feeds each other. Because when one person, as soon as one person is just like, can breathe through all of the shit that's coming up, and see the person in front of them as their little kid self that's just hurting. Like, they're just hurting. Even if they're spewing anger at you, you can like, it's literally have to be like put on a different lens. You know, like you put on different glasses, and you master looking at people from that lens instead of just seeing the anger that's coming at you. And just being like, I can see that you're hurting, you know, and I just want to love you. Like, how can I support you through this? It's just like this diffusion.
Oh, big diffusion. Rachel does an incredible job at that.
And it has taken me a long time to get there. Like, a long time to get there, to be able to hold so much space for that, and also these boundaries that you have as well, because there's a big difference between holding space for someone and coming with love and acceptance and non-judgment, and also having your own boundaries of like, I will not be taken advantage of, I will not be walked over.
Yes. Like
standing up for the kind of person you want to be, because I think I've seen people be like, oh, but I'm just coming from a place of love, and they're not speaking their truth, they're not standing up for themselves. They're creating resentment, they're creating smallness. And that's not what we're saying. So it's being able to navigate and dance with both. And I do think it is a dance, and it is a freaking workout every time. And it's a muscle that you build and you get better and better at.
I love that game. That's even just in your own personal relationship with yourself. Like, the faster you just kind of get real with it, you still win. And
we both win at the end of the day, you know.
No, but I love that you said that, even with yourself, like that honesty, the game within yourself. Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with you.
100%.
Like, And the more I've learned how to truly hold space for myself, love myself, let that little kid inside me that is hurting, I just love the shit out of them and give them the love that they are craving. Then I'm not projecting all that stuff onto other people, friends, family, intimate partners, business partners. I'm able to just love on me, give that little kid the love that they're craving, and then they no longer are seeking the attention, validation, all of this, or wanting to spew anger, or hate on other people to get that attention in some way. So I think, it's
Well, I think that's a beautiful.
Like crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think we talk about this a lot too. I think humanity might think that this is a crazy statement, but like loving yourself and like doing you and really nurturing you and taking care of you is the best thing that you can do for your relationship, right? Like loving you, like loving myself so much first
is loving me.
Is loving you.
It is.
Right? Like loving me is loving
you.
you.
On Instagram and you like clapped it and it said like, I think it was Ram Dass where it was like, the best gift I could give to me is.
The best gift I could give to you is to work on me, and the best gift you could
100%.
do is to work on you. 100%.
That's it. That's it. I think that's like if that's like everything. Mic drop kind of thing on any relationship, because then your cup starts to overflow, and that overflow can like go to friends and family and relationships, right? I think.
But I do think that's one of the hardest gifts or confusions is that it's hard. It's brave work to face yourself.
Yeah.
Like it is brave work.
Yes.
And oftentimes the easier thing to do is to go do something else and get it from somewhere else, like social media or like going, having a conversation with someone, just doing anything else but facing yourself, basically.
Yeah. Any distraction. Insert said thing. We all do it.
Yeah. Yes. And so, but it is that, like, if you can just face it, rip the Band-Aid off and like go in and make that part of you that feels scared or hurt or angry or resentful, just learning what it really looks like for each person listening. Like, because I think it's a unique thing that we all have to figure out. Like, what does it really look like for me to love me?
Yeah.
And I think that's like ever expanding, ever changing. I think
what does it look like to love me today?
Yes. Versus 10 years from now. And that is like probably like your number one thing. Like, what does that look like to really love on me today? And I love this phrase of like, love yourself enough to have the hard conversation. Love yourself enough to go do the workout. Like, not because you're trying to punish yourself, but because you just want to nourish and love you. Love yourself enough to go on the adventure that scares you because you might die tomorrow and you want to live. Like, love yourself enough to take care of you, even when it's really hard.
Yeah.
And
love yourself enough to say no to a relationship or to end a relationship or say yes to a relationship, like, depending on what chapter you're in, right? Like,